Without further ado, I'm going to turn this conversation over to Will Grannis of Google. He's got an amazing conversation coming up with two generals who are collaborating between the Marines and the Army, and I really want to hear about that. That's the sort of thing we need, and we need the private sector like Google supporting that. So this seems to be the great confab that we want. We want to see Google, the Marines, the Army, and everyone working together to advance technology and put capabilities in the hands of the warfighter faster. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will, and you guys have a great conversation.
Great. All right. Thanks, David. Great to be here. And hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Will Grannis, and I'll be your host for this discussion on how technology and talent are transforming the military. A little bit about me. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Google Cloud and founder of Google Public Sector, which is Google's purpose-built subsidiary that helps the U.S. government accelerate digital transformation through cool technology and hopefully useful humans. So I'm also a graduate of the United States Military Academy. I was an artilleryman and an effects officer for a while before I got into tech. And now I build things for organizations like yours. But the real stars of today are here with me, two of the United States military's most distinguished leaders. First, Lieutenant General Matthew Glavy, Deputy Commandant for Information, United States Marine Corps, who previously served as Commander of Marine Corps Forces Cyberspace Command and the first Commander of Marine Forces Space Command. His 37-year career began as the United States Naval Academy, and upon receiving his wings in September of 1988, he was selected to fly the CH-46 Sea Knight. Great platform. Lieutenant General Glavy has since gone on to serve in leadership and operational positions around the world, including, but certainly not limited to, Commanding General of the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing and Presidential Command Pilot. And joining General Glavy is Lieutenant General Thomas Todd, Deputy Commanding General for Acquisition and Systems and the Chief Innovation Officer at U.S. Army Futures Command headquarters here in Austin, Texas. In this executive role, he provides oversight of the Army's research laboratories and centers. As the Chief Innovation Officer, he is directly responsible for technology integration and experimentation directed at Army modernization. Previously was the Program Executive Officer of Aviation at Redstone Arsenal in Alabama. And before that was Senior Commander of Natick Soldier Systems Center in Massachusetts. Throughout his career, Lieutenant General Todd served on the Army staff, led Army and joint programs at all levels, and has delivered advanced capabilities to soldiers, joint services, other government agencies, as well as over 60 foreign allied nations. General Todd received his commission in 1989 at the Citadel and is an Army aviator. Gentlemen, it's an honor to be here with both of you today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now I think there's a joke somewhere around here about how it takes 2 Army guys to equal 1 Marine.
Right.
But I'll stay away from that. And that is because as an artilleryman in the company of 2 aviators, I can probably deduce who graduated where in their class at the respective academy. So I think we should probably just jump on in. All right, to get us started, I'd love to hear from each of you. Now, what role do you see technology playing on the battlefield?
All right, I'll kick it off. I'll tell you, I'll first and foremost, it's so important that, today, thanks to the partnership with the Army Futures Command, that the Marine Corps is standing up our portion of the Marine Corps software factory. The Army's led. We have watched, and certainly their leadership throughout things like Project Convergence and other really impactful events. We wanted to get a piece of this. So thanks to General Rainey and General Todd for bringing us under the tent, making us part of their team. And we'll have a small contingent here. We'll grow with the great work that the Army's doing, and want to kind of, take that, throughout the Marine Corps, and to be able to respond to what our Marine Expeditionary Force commanders need in the battle space. So that really answers how important technology is for us. There's 2 aspects to it that the Commandant has gone forward with. One is modernization, right? Enormous amount of technology there as we advance. And the other part of experimentation and innovation. And a lot of that happens at our Marine Expeditionary Force level, at our warrior level. And so combining the 2 is a really powerful aspect. And being able to work so closely with the Army software factory is going to provide incredible amounts of asymmetry in order for us to do both. So for us today, technology is about being part of this great command and bringing the Marine Corps software factory to bear and to provide these capabilities to the Marines out forward. So very fortunate to be here, and thanks again, sir.
You bet. You bet. Thanks for your partnership too. For us at Army Futures Command, being a relatively new command still to this day, it's about learning every day. And the one thing we've learned in some of the experimentation we've done thus far is that we are contributing to the joint force, right? And much of our experimentation really might be an Army led, but it is truly a joint effort, no matter what it is. And we believe that's our contribution to the joint force, not just the joint force, but coalition and allies. So one of the things that we wanted to do in standing up Army Futures Command was to stop delivering things and deliver capabilities. And Software Factory is certainly an excellent way to do that. One of the beauties of it is it allows us to be agile at the edge. And that's something we've got to learn better to do and teach the bureaucracy to do each and every day. And I couldn't think of a better partner other than the Marine Corps to do it with. They are our brother on the ground. And at the end of the day, we have to lead where people live, and people live on the ground. And the Army couldn't be happier than to be delivering capability in the software realm as well as the other technology realms to our future soldiers. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a technologist, it really, gets to my heart when you start talking about pushing innovation out to the edge and really empowering those who are living in the situations and having to overcome those obstacles at the tactical edge and really empowering them to solve their own problems through technology. And that's what we try to do every day. And, as a Army soldier back in the day, I remember having to dismount a laser out of a tracked vehicle and run a cable out to a place and put it up on a rock and, violate pretty much every rule that I was given about how to use the technology. And it's great to see, senior Army and Marine Corps leadership backing up soldiers and folks at the tactical edge are going to try to, bring that next wave of innovation. Speaking of that, technology, especially digitization, is cascading through all echelons on the battlefield. So from strategic, tactical, even out to the individual soldier or Marine, like we were just describing. So where do you see, what are you doing to prepare for that future where technology will cascade all the way down from, the strategic level, where maybe it's, very senior decision makers observing, broad movements in a battlefield or thinking through strategy, all the way down to the tactical edge?
No, there's no doubt. And I think the bottom line to what we're talking about is readiness, right? We got to be mission ready. And the Commandant even takes it more specific, ready for what, with what, when. So it's not just about up airplanes or vehicles that are operational. And that's very important. Oh, by the way, haven't been an aviator my whole life, but it's really about the capability against the adversary that we are against. So those type of things afford exactly what you said, from strategic all the way down to the tactical, being able to make our own luck. Marines have a say in outcomes, and we give them the right skills, right tradecraft, have these partnerships like we have with the U.S. Army, partnerships with industry as well, in order to do this all. Eloquence. To do that, understanding that and conforming to that process now is really a matter of software. It's a ability to integrate with that software to provide decision makers all the way down to what needs to happen, at the company level, the battalion level, et cetera. Make your own luck is a phrase I've heard, and that's part of this. So, at the end of the day, I think it's a readiness discussion. How do we become more ready, and specifically in a precision manner?
I would just add to that. We have learned a tremendous amount about data and our lack of data in many places. We take for granted, quite frankly, what we have when we're training sometimes. And if you immerse it in an operational environment, I think, the good part about it is we're learning to break things in a safe operational environment that allows us not to have our first unit equips, learn the lessons that we should have learned along the way. Data is no different. And the chain of data, the continuity of data, the consistency of data, the access to data, and the ability to organize it and then use it for decision making in real time becomes paramount for us. So, from a data perspective in particular, it is resident really in all of our systems now. the question will become, and we need industry's help to do this because we do not have the power in our own lab infrastructure to figure this out. How do we then organize it and make decisions inside the enemy's decision cycle? Right. And we have to do that together as a joint force because almost anywhere we fight, we're going to be together as a team. And we've seen industry there with us. And our ability to be agile and change on the edge of the battlefield in real time ahead of the enemies, right, or the adversaries' time cycle and decision cycle is going to be really important in the future. So that's one of the things that we're extremely focused on right now in Army Futures Command.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear the convergence of, tailored technology for the right mission, the right purpose, the right time, plus data. Because one of our experiences in, commercial technology development is that feedback loops, rapid iteration and feedback loops create great technology. It's very rarely how we intend it to be or fully functional, especially in software when you first deploy it. So those feedback loops and that constant iteration is super important. And so with that mindset of, very specific purpose, use cases, critical user journeys, things that are commercial software development best practices now making their way into the software factories, I think there are going to be some really interesting results that'll benefit the soldiers and Marines out there on the edge. But not everything is rosy. So as you bring technology forward, I'm sure in the front of your mind are some challenges that come along with digitization, increased technology on the battlefield. What do you see as some of the main challenges that your respective organizations are working through right now?
And, I'll put, myself on report, look in the mirror as I say this. One is education and understanding of where we're at, especially at, probably my age group, but really sensitized to the ability of what data can do. I think we've been complacent here. I think we tend to go with our gut a lot. And nothing wrong with that, by the way, because we, want Marines to be able to operate in very chaotic situations, to be able to react to those moments. But on the same note, what an advantage and asymmetric advantage to have, data informed decisions, have data at the fingertips of the commander in order to make really critical decisions. So part of this is an education understanding level, probably at the senior, more senior ranks. But that is, first and foremost, and then it cascades down. And you'll see our Marines are very savvy here. It's like fingertip feel. They understand the digital environment extremely well. They adapt to it much probably quicker than we do. And I think we need to take their lead more and more. And I think as you walk around this factory, you see that, right? Especially when they're soldiers and Marines that really know what people are asking for. That's a big divide sometimes. And, and I put ourselves on report again is really articulating to industry what we want. And, the requirements process is what it is. And whatever we thought of a couple years ago from a requirements process, is it adaptable today? It may or may not be, right? And so I think the world of software provides some agility in order to, have the owner operator there, really customers, Marines, soldiers, right, providing that input to make sure what we deliver, what's going to be delivered, with industry. But all this starts with a understanding of what we need to do. So there's probably more and more education that we have to do, and some of that's it's looking myself in the mirror. But and some of our senior leaders get it. I think General Milley has been a very proactive, and other senior leaders. Certainly, the Commandant has been a big proponent of this. But we gotta really respect and utilize the data to its fullest.
Yeah, I'll just add that we don't have all the answers. The answers largely come from the user community. And if we can't be opportunistic inside our very deliberate system and bureaucracy that we work inside, then shame on us. And it's up to us as senior leaders to make those changes happen, make structural changes happen so that we can be opportunistic. And at the end of the day, react at the pace of capability and technology development. I always say that, when I'm working with foreign customers, there's different sayings in different countries. And in England, it is mind the gap every time you get off the metro. And the gap for us is the pace at which we field the most current innovation. That's the gap. And we have to close that gap. And so that's our mission, is to understand, the system that we're up against somewhat, and then do all the deliberate planning that's required, but allow our soldiers to be opportunistic, to affect change. And even if it's just change in their own unit, that's okay, right? Because that's what might light the spark to change the rest of the Army. And scaling is our ultimate problem. The size of the Army is something that's very, very expensive to change, and it takes a lot of time. And at the end of the day, if we can change one brigade combat team, one division, all the better. And that's what we're after now. And so hopefully we won't drag at the pace of the whole Army, and we'll actually lead at the pace of the individual soldier now.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we experienced working with the Army Software Factory firsthand was even the ability to red team software. So developing software also gives you a very keen sense of where vulnerabilities might lie, how software is developed, and things and processes and procedures and how you develop software. Often one of the things we talk about in commercial software development is it'll reflect your org chart, it'll reflect your culture, reflect your values, like the software that you write. And so one of the things that we had an experience with here, and it was a huge help to us, was actually taking a commercial piece of software that we had built for users around the world, billions of users, and have it red teamed by the Army Software Factory, and finding vulnerabilities or potential danger areas, so that when we deployed it later on to the Army, that would already be taken care of, rather than having some long cycle user test. First you field it, then you test it, and there's this long feedback loop done very quickly here with a group of soldiers who understood software, understood red teaming, really accelerated the pace of commercial technology deployment to the Army. So it's huge boom.
And I would say we would have never predicted that.
Yeah,
would have been one of the uses. And again, our soldiers and the technology that I think they're more willing to adapt than maybe I am right now. To be fair, I'm comfortable in my old skin. I like my old analog aircraft cockpit versus my digital aircraft cockpit. It was very hard to adjust to that, but you can teach an old dog new tricks. But if we don't listen and we're not a learning organization, then we've missed. And for us to really convert to be a learning organization, that means we're going to have to learn rapidly. And that's one of the great attributes of something like Software Factory. It's going places we never thought it would have gone. That was not necessarily, red teaming was not one of the envisioned capabilities, but it's certainly something that I think is going to aid our nation. And no doubt, as this ecosystem of software factories is stood up across all of DoD, I think it'll be something to behold.
So I'm going to get my action item list ready. So what do you need from commercial technology providers? What do you need in terms of partnerships, capabilities, or just general approaches to better partner with the Army and the Marine Corps?
Yeah. So I think industry actually does this fairly. It just today doesn't work, and some of that's on us. But certainly from an industry standpoint, industry has to, and I'm telling them to do something, but bring the owner operators, the user in as early as possible, and making sure what we're doing is on the track that it needs to be on. I think there's so much good that comes from that. It can get hard, can get challenging. We're doing things from Marine Corps Recruiting Command right now, right? Recruiting, if you didn't know, is a big challenge, but we need their buy-in in order to make them better, right? So they gotta, there's a price to be paid and all that, and we will minimize the impact. But you're the owner operator. This is going to be your capability, your tool set. We got to nail it, to fit your hand, or it'll be sub-optimized. And like I said, too many instances we come back 2 years from now after providing a requirement on someone's, that it isn't what we need or what we want, or it's aged and not aged well. So I think that relationship is critical. I also think, we got to make sure that we ask the right question, the right problem statement, the right, so we can be awkward here. And I think that gets back to some of the relationships that we work throughout the process with industry to deliver a capability that we need to have. We have software-defined radios, right? Buying a lot of them with the U.S. Army, matter of fact, making sure those software-defined radios, we can input software into them, right? So that's a big thing as we look at capabilities as sensors out in the battle space that we're going to need to make based on the environment that we're in, and to be able to interact with, capabilities like that with industry is going to be critical. So I think there's a lot there. I spent most of my life in aviation, and V-22s and F-35s. Holy cow! That's a heavy lift. But there's a lot of things we can make a little easier, especially we can make software the asymmetric advantage to a capability, a sensor, a C2 capability, a decision making capability, and many other things.
Yeah. I've spent pretty much 30 years with industry in my Army service, and mostly great partnerships. So I have a lot of belief and faith in industry and what we could do together. I would say the one paradigm that we have to solve, in my opinion, together is full government funding should not be the starting point. We need to enter into more cost shares together. We cannot afford to do all the things we want to do and foot the entire bill. The taxpayer can't afford that. And nor do I think, it's similar to the science and technology world. IRAD dollars and S&T should go together. They really should. And they should match each other. But from just a relationship perspective, where I would love to see us go in the future is embed with each other more, right? In the units, and let's get after some of the problem sets, the use cases, the scenarios we're trying to solve. But this whole idea that we've been driven to, that it has to be a fully funded government program up front, is not how you do innovation.
Right.
That's not how you light the spark. That's not how you start things. And so we've got to get better at doing a lot of preparatory work together. And that's where those soldier touch points can come from. And that's where access to our units and our facilities and our ranges can be of use. And at the end of the day, when we hand off a more informed requirement that's much more mature, that's taking advantage of the latest technologies, we're not, 8-10 years order of magnitude out of the latest technology. So I'd love to see that be constant, and that relationship constant, and that co-investment constant.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. Speaking as a commercial CTO, we have to think about what users might need years from now, and we have to start making investments now. We have to take some risk. Sometimes we're going to be right, sometimes we're going to be wrong, and hopefully the right outweighs the wrong. But that's our responsibility, and I don't see it as much different here. Working with Marine Corps, Army, to say there's a responsibility on the commercial side to lean forward a little bit and invest in things, because especially in IT, the pace is so fast. We're deploying software every single day, thousands of times a day. And that pace means, to your point earlier, General Glavy, is, in 2 years, software that, you had scoped 2 years ago could be completely irrelevant and bypassed from what users want, how they're using software. And also a lot of it's being driven by how they use commercial software. They have that we call it the consumerization of IT, where if they can get, a certain capability on their smartphone at home, they want to have that capability, when they go to work. And the more that those two things are divorced, the more difficult it is to bring people in to an organization. Okay, so a couple more questions here. What would you like private sector companies like Google to know more about from the perspective of the Marine Corps or the Army? What are maybe some misconceptions or things that maybe we don't appreciate that you'd like to fill us in on? To the general's point, I think there are some great relationships. I think for the most part, it's a really positive relationship that we have. Get into the specifics. We have invested significantly in our network, let's say, and we're in the IL5, impact level 5. We're finally in this cloud environment after so long, and so we're taking full advantage of getting ready to go to impact level 6. Right, from a warfighting standpoint, that's going to be really important. So now, we're going to get into this ubiquitous access to data. Right, for once, we have kind of
build up the back end, so to speak, right? Being able to operate out of a cloud environment, a hybrid cloud environment, but just fully understanding how, data is going to need to be able to move not only from a, mass storage, but all the way to the edge, from a computation standpoint. And it's, we aren't going to be able to bring everything. We're not going to bring servers and stacks of servers and more stacks of servers to the field. It's hard to do that, especially when you look at things like force design and the stand-in force concept. It's going to be lean and mean. I've heard the phrase, bring your own antenna. I think there's a lot of, what space has done has been very disruptive. And sometimes, we don't catch on to that early enough, so to speak. I think the prolific LEO scenario is a perfect example. Did we see that coming to the extent that it's here? And how much does that affect our budgets and our program objective memorandum processes? Anyway, being able to work with industry companies like Google, fully understanding it's back to this requirement. I write it today, and to your point, it doesn't age well because things change, things that we didn't necessarily see change. So I think there's always this team sport, so to speak. You talk about you need all this on-prem stuff for denied degraded environments. Did you know, or are you considering, right? And I may not be necessarily maybe asking too much, but sometimes it's, protecting ourselves from ourselves, so to speak. And I say that just looking at myself in the mirror, but I think there is going to be mutual relationships that we got to be able to get after in order to have that asymmetric product. And then, hey, what are we going to be able to do from our, back to things like the software factories, and how does that push all the way down to the tactical edge? I think there's loads of opportunity. Google's a powerful company, so many things that you all do and do so well. But I think more and more, the power of data, you can be the greatest advocate for us and provide the greatest example of what is possible in a ubiquitous manner. And so I think there is sky's the limit here. And I think we just started to scratch the surface of the disruptive nature of, what it means to bring your own antenna, so to speak, and have ubiquitous access to data to do what you need to do wherever you are.
So ditto. That's great. I would just say three things. We found through experimentation that all clouds don't talk to each other. So we've got some issues. This whole idea of the cloud, there's multiple clouds, and we've got to figure out how to make them work. Data labeling and tagging, and high performance computing at the edge. We have got to have it. And to the general's point, we can't take big things to the edge, but they have to disconnect occasionally from the network and be able to still house the data that we have to perform the mission at the edge in a disconnected, distributed environment. So,
all right. Well, gentlemen, as we wrap up here, maybe one quick forecast as you look over the next 5 to 10 years. What's one thing that you see will be critical as a capability for mission success in the Marine Corps and the Army?
Probably repeating myself, but wherever our Marines and soldiers are, this ability to use data, to use information to drive outcomes. And it's probably going to be a hybrid approach. But I think more and more the value, industry obviously is leading on it. The business model's leading on it. From a military standpoint, as we look at competition, deterrence, and ultimately campaigning, how are we going to use information, really use it in order to make a difference from a deterrence model? I think it's going to be a game changer. As we look at everything that's going on in current events today, as important as the battle space is, much of it's happening outside the battle space, and that is derived from information, data driven. And I think more and more we're going to see this ability for the U.S. military across the board to be masters of information, of data, truly understand its power, and then bring it to bear in a campaigning way in support of the combatant commanders and the joint force. But we got to get good at it. We got to get good at it.
Yeah, for us, similarly, it's certainly data is going to make the difference. Data is our new ammo, and at the end of the day, he who has it wins. And I would say also for us, a very close second to that is the interaction of human agent or human machine teams in the future, and how we interact with machines on the battlefield is going to be critical. So we look forward to exploring that.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time here today. Brings us to the end. And General Glavy, General Todd, excited for how you're leading the Marine Corps and the Army into the future. And look forward to partnering with both of you. And I'm Will Grannis from Google Cloud. Thanks to everyone out there in cyberspace for joining us today. And we'll see you soon.